I think we should start now, Mukta.
Sure, ma'am. Yes. I'll just admit there are a few more in the... Am I audible? Should I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, I'm getting an echo. I was just checking. All done. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Teachers have three loves: love for learning, love for learners, and love of bringing the first and the second love together. And that's exactly why we all are here today, to learn, to know more about tricks and tips for MCQs required for the upcoming board exams. Happy afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of Trinity International School, I, Ms. Mukta Salgaonkar, welcomes you all. Before we begin our session, a few instructions. This is for everyone to follow, which will help us in conducting the session smoothly. You are requested to keep your microphones on mute throughout the session. Your queries will be addressed towards the end of the session. Kindly use the raise hand feature. To ask queries, you will be unmuted one at a time. Please be patient. Recorded Zoom session video link will be available on Trinity International School's website for future references. Kindly fill the attendance link, which will be shared in the chat box. It also has your participation certificate attached to it. Thank you. May I now request our director, Mrs. Shakuntala Jaisinghani, to address the members present for today's workshop.
I think I went on mute again. Sorry. Could you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So again, good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Swarup Dutt, I'm really very thankful to you for coming on board with us here and helping out everyone. We all need this kind of support. And this pandemic has really given us this silver lining that we all are together, because all of us are facing the same challenges. And therefore, we all need to get together, bond together, and learn together. So for that, we've all assembled here today for some support and guidance from Dr. Swarup Datta for this new type of CBSE examinations that are being declared for the half yearlies for the two sessions, the MCQs, and I'm sure he's going to demystify it for all of us. Thank you and welcome, Dr. Swarup Datta.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm extremely overwhelmed to get this opportunity to introduce to you all our resource person for today's workshop. He is a man of principles and indeed an experienced principal too. He is a visionary leader, educator with 20 years of experience for supervising staff, securing resources, transforming organization culture, and implementing effective programs. He has trained more than 15,000 corporate employees and more than 50,000 teachers. He holds a degree in MSc B.Ed, BHMS, Principal of MSM English School, and Zonal Coordinator and Master Trainer of CBSE COE Pune. He is the first principal in India to become a Master Black Belt in Lean Six Sigma Quality Management System, Certified Green Belt and Global Career Counselor for UCLA Extension, University of California and Los Angeles. He gave up his illustrious career as Vice President of pharmaceutical company to bring out changes in the education sector and in the young minds to groom them into better citizens of tomorrow. Received the Young Scientist Award 2007 Association for Advancement of Homeopathic Science, Kolkata, for his research in the field homeopathic science and his hypothesis based on quantum physics. He is a master trainer of CBSE COE and prepared 2 modules for CBSE COE Pune, supervising skills for middle management and academic administration for top management. He recently prepared 2 modules for Diksha Portal on behalf of CBSE, Preschool Education and Creativity, and Problem Solving. Recently, he launched his company, Best Career Books, which is meant to provide career counseling, consultancy, and training services, transform schools and lives of people around the world. He has trained principals across Maharashtra on NEP 2020 and presently conducting numerous sessions for teachers and parents of schools across India. Of course, he is none other than Dr. Swaroop Datta. I welcome you to this session on behalf of the entire Trinity family. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Shakuntala ma'am, Rupali ma'am, for inviting me in this particular webinar. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'll try to, highlight a little bit on the MCQ aspects that the schools are really, bothered about right now, how exactly we should go ahead, how to frame the MCQ questions. I'm pretty sure each one of you know about MCQ, what exactly it is. You have answered and framed numerous MCQs. But what my purpose for today's session is making you aware of, how the MCQs needs to be framed in a scientific manner. And towards the end, if we have some time left, I will try to give you some hacks for the students as well, which you can share with your students, and it will be beneficial for the children to understand how to attempt an MCQ when they do not know an answer. It's very easy to tick it when you know the answer. But the hack is regarding when you do not know an answer, what is the psychology behind the MCQ? That is something that I'll try to reveal. So without wasting any further time, let me present my screen to you. Give me a moment for that. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. Thank you so much. So as the topic is, tricks and tips for MCQ rather. Now, let me just tell you that multiple choice is always a very common thing that we all have experienced. Even the early man had to make selections from multiple choices that he had. Whether he wants to hunt the leopard or the deer was a multiple choice as well. So he had to choose from multiple options to survive. So MCQ is something that is not very foreign to us. It has always been there. We just need to understand how it got transformed and got included in our assessment system. Now, this is another probably way of MCQ that we had. The Swayamvar, multiple choices were there as well. And, the lady used to choose one of the prospective grooms as her groom, and that was a multiple choice option as well. Now, when it comes to the definition of MCQ, multiple choice questions, or these are called multiple choice, objective response, or MCQ, is a form of an objective assessment in which respondents are asked to select only correct answers from the choices offered as a list. So we are all aware of this, that what exactly is the whole structure like. There will be a list of answers and you need to select one from those. Now, how the MCQ was developed, this is something that we need to be aware of, because you need to understand the background of it, how this MCQ really came inside the education sector. So although E.L. Thorndike developed an early scientific approach to testing students, it was his assistant, Benjamin D. Wood, who developed the multiple choice test. Now, what is Thorndike famous for? Thorndike is famous for the SR response, So he describes that an organism's attempt to learn or solve a problem by trying alternative possibilities until a correct solution or a desirable outcome is achieved. So if you have read about Thorndike in your B.Ed, I'm pretty sure if someone is from a psychology background, they have definitely studied about Thorndike's SR response. So this is what Thorndike was famous for, that selecting from alternatives by trial and error method. And he said that, factors which involved attempts, motivation, exploration, reward, or punishment at times, and which will lead to repeat performance of the correct response, strengthening the association between the behavior and its outcome. Now, Thorndike was the person who gave the idea of multiple choice, but this was Benjamin D. Wood. His full name was Benjamin D. Calbe Wood, who lived between 1894 to 1986, an American educator, researcher, and director of professor at Columbia University. And he was a pioneer in learning technologies and automated testing methods. Wood is the creator of multiple choice test. What he did was he framed this particular test so that it was a way of measuring teachers' understanding of certain subjects that in long run influence their salaries. So, Benjamin Wood devised this MCQ so that the teachers may attempt these MCQs, and which in turn determine the salaries that they will get, which was earlier not determined by their performance, but at times their place of birth or the experience they hold based on these things, especially in the southern part of America. He helped in designing the multiple choice of the pencil bubbles. Now you see, these are called pencil bubbles, where you actually have to shade the entire bubble with your pencil. And it was used in the 20th century. And the scoring machine that automatically read these forms saves many hours of manual clerical labor. So this was one more important thing, that MCQs will help you solve, it will help you to check the paper very quickly. It will be done automatically with the help of machines. Next. Now the first MCQ for computers, computer-based MCQ was first developed by Christopher P. Soule. He created the first MCQ examination for computers on a Sharp MZ80 computer in 1982. So see, this is the Sharp MZ80 computer, which was first time used for MCQs. And this was done by Christopher P. Soule. And it was developed to aid mainly students with dyslexia. You know dyslexia because most of you have watched the movie Tare Zameen Par. And thanks to that movie, the dyslexia is a common term nowadays among the educators. So dyslexia, people who had dyslexia, they had hard time understanding and pronouncing the Latin names of plants in particular. Ficus bengalensis and all these things. So this computer helped them solve that problem. Now, this was the first school, St. Edward's School in Romsey, England, which for the first time conducted an entire examination in MCQ form. So this is a brief history of MCQ. And ever since St. Edward's School in Romsey, England, conducted the first MCQ assessment for an entire examination, it has become a common practice since then. Now, to frame MCQ, you need to be aware of the Bloom's taxonomy. I will not go into deep into Bloom's taxonomy because it's a separate session altogether, which I'm pretty sure most of you have definitely attended. But I just like to remind you quickly that Bloom's taxonomy talks about 3 domains: the cognitive domain, which had 6 levels, the affective domain, which had 5 levels, and the psychomotor domain, which is a skill-based assessment, right? Now, what are the cognitive domains? We will know about that, but let's understand the affective domains. The affective domains are receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, and characterizing. Now let's see, take a snapshot look at all the 3 domains. In cognitive domain, we have recall, that is remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and synthesizing or creating. Now, when Bloom framed his, this taxonomy, synthesizing was the 5th one and the evaluation was the 6th one, which was later changed. The topmost was synthesizing or creating, and the 5th one was evaluating. Now, in affective domain, that is more to do with the heart, it was receiving, that is the awareness, responding to that awareness or reacting to it, understanding and acting on it, organizing personal value system, and internalize value system, that is adopting the behavior. Now, when it comes to psychomotor or skill, it starts with imitation, followed by manipulation, develop precision, articulation, that is combine, integrate related skills, and finally naturalization, where it is automated and the person becomes an expert in that particular skill. So you can see 6 cognitive domains, 5 affective domains, and 5 skill domains. Now, when we are framing the MCQ, we need to understand the Bloom's taxonomy so that we can go into different domains to check the level of the student. We cannot just restrict ourselves to either the knowledge domain or the attitude domain or only with the skill domain. We need to have a fair mix of all these things. And in the knowledge domain also, as you're well aware of, that higher order thinking skills like analyzing, evaluating, and synthesizing is the need of the hour. The new National Policy of Education is very clearly telling that you need to create innovators. The CBSE Innovation Ambassador Program is something that you all are aware of. So right now, the need of the hour is not to ensure that the children just mugs up the data, learns by heart, understands and applies, but going beyond that in analyzing, evaluating, and also creating. So we need the children to be creators of knowledge, not mere absorbers of knowledge. We need the children to be creator of jobs, not just job seekers. So this transformation can only happen when we radically modify the assessment system. As long as we are sticking to the age-old assessment system, it's not going to happen. So the new National Policy of Education and probably the adverse scenario created by the COVID environment has given us this great opportunity to bring about that much needed transformation about which we were talking about since the last 15 or 20 years, but it was not happening. So, and I remember in the last 10 years at least, it was very, very intensified. We were talking about experiential learning, no rote learning, but in some way, no one was able to bell the cat. So the belling of the cat was very important, which COVID gave the option and opportunity for us to do it. So as I was talking about, the Bloom's taxonomy was later on revised and creativity was taken to the very top of the learning order, where remembering is at the very lower rung. So remembering is a very lower level of learning, followed by understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So I won't go deep into it because you already are aware of this Bloom's taxonomy. So let's move ahead. Now, when we're talking about remembering, you know that it's recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory. Understanding is making sense of what you have. Applying is use the knowledge gained in new ways. So you talk about real life applications. So this is applying. Analyzing, breaking the concept into parts and understand how each part is related to one another. Now from here, the higher order thinking skill starts. I think remembering, understanding, and applying is a cakewalk for you because you have been doing it all through all these years, right? But from now on, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, things become a little more serious. So analyzing is breaking the concept into parts. So how to test that? That's very important. Evaluating, making judgment based on a set of guidelines. So, you know, when you ask about a question like, if it's a subjective question, if I say that way, that talk about the religious reforms of Akbar. So religious reforms of Akbar is a remembering question or to some extent an understanding question. But when you take it to the evaluating level, you can ask Akbar or Aurangzeb, who according to you was a better religious reformer and why? Now, someone may say that I feel Akbar, or someone may say I feel Aurangzeb, and they can justify their answer with a logic. That is where evaluation is. In evaluation, you are checking the evaluation skill of a child, and here the child, when giving an answer, may not be wrong. So we are not checking or looking for a correct answer. We are looking at the level at which the child can evaluate and justify his answers. And finally, creating is putting information together in an innovative way. It has a trick altogether. There's a different session, as I said, for creativity and problem solving, but I'll just tell the term. It's called a scamper. In scamper method, what you can do is you can replace something that is there, you can substitute, and things like that can be used to create a new thing. Creation does not always mean that you will, produce something new. It can be a substitution, it can be a replacement, it can be, flipping it. So all these things can be creativity as well. Now, very quickly, just for your quick understanding, this is a sort of a worksheet which you can take a screenshot and try to solve it later on. I have given certain circumstances for you to understand. Is it an application? Is it a remembering? Is it an evaluation or what? For example, let's take the first option. You can put it in the chat box, whatever you think is right. And you can use these abbreviations: R for remembering, U for understanding, A for applying, AN for analyzing, E for evaluating, and C for creating. So number one, construct a model to show how it will work. What is it? Fine, keep answering, like 1C. Number two, design a questionnaire to gather further information. Number three, prepare a list of criteria to judge a performance. So 3, what is 3? Put 3 and the answer. 3 what? Is it AP? Very good, E. Number 4, draw pictures to explain what an event was about. Create a new product, give its name, and then devise a marketing strategy. 5 is what? Creativity, right? Very good. 6, make a timeline of the event. What is a timeline? 6. What is a timeline? Let's say what you can do. 6. I want to answer for 6. Remembering. Very good. Timeline is nothing but remembering. Excellent. So I think you're through with this. To save time, I'll just scroll across to the next part. Maybe the last 4 we will solve again. 17, put the pieces of a cartoon story in logical order. 17, put the logical, pieces of a cartoon story in logical order. What is it? Number 18, what information can you use to support this view? Number 19, what is the relationship between cause and the consequence of the event in history? And number 20 is state or interpret in your own words the gist of the event. Now, I'm pretty sure each one of you have tried solving this, and as I said, take a screenshot, try it out later on, and check how comfortable you are distinguishing the different questions in terms of application or analysis. And if you need more detailed overview of that, I have a different session for Bloom's taxonomy. It's actually a 3 to 4 hour session. We can do it once the lockdown gets over, and we can have a physical session on that. So it's going something beyond the normal Bloom's taxonomy sessions that we normally attend. Next, so when you're framing the MCQ, you need to be aware of certain things, and let's see what are the things that you need to be aware of. First, before you start, you have to ask this question. Is this topic worth evaluating? Does it test higher cognitive function or just recall? So this is probably the start of the framing of the question of MCQs. So without this, you cannot proceed. Next. Now, when we talk about understanding questions, what do I really mean? One of the goals of teaching is not only to evaluate learning outcomes, but also to guide students on their learning process. Hence, it is important that as teachers, we question students' thinking and learning process. If a teacher utilizes questions effectively, students will discover that the question is a very valuable learning tool. It is a device through which they can organize their thinking to achieve the objectives. So what I'm talking about here is learning through assessments, or assessment as a learning. Now, this assessment of learning is a thing of past. We were talking about assessment of learning, and the previous type of assessment that we used to take, the normal question papers that we used to set, that was assessment of learning. But when we talk about assessment for learning is what? To remember easily, I'll give you a hack over here as well. For is the first part of the word formative. So assessment for learning is formative assessment. So formative assessment is as simple as, if you're serving the rice that you cook, you cannot afford all the time to cook the rice and serve it and then discover it was undercooked or overcooked. So what you basically do is, when the rice is being cooked on the oven, you take up one piece or pick up one piece of rice and you press it with your fingers and test if it's cooked or not. If it is cooked well, you know that it's going fine and it's all set to, bring it down and serve. And if it's not cooked, you cook it a little bit more time. So what happens is, formative assessment does not make you do a post-mortem. You can correct things when it is required. So assessment for learning is not only the assessment of the child, but also assessment of the teacher. It's almost like the driving lesson that you get from a driver who is sitting next to you and also has the clutch and the brake under his feet, so that in case you go wrong, he will be the one who will be taking care of the car and avoid an accident. So this is the formative assessment. So assessment for learning is very important. Now the second part is assessment as learning. So when you take an assessment, the children still learn from it, right? So assessment has to be used in a way from which the children get learning, or they use the assessment as a learning tool. That is called assessment as learning. Now, what are good questions? The good questions are purposeful. So they are asked to achieve a specific purpose. It should be clear. Students understand what they mean. It should be brief, stated in as few words as possible. It should be natural, stated simply in conversational English. Do not use bombarding English that children get perplexed about what exactly you're talking about. For example, if you've taught in your class that a book of words is dictionary, you cannot ask what is a lexicon. So keep it simple. We have taught dictionary, so let it be dictionary. Let it not rename it as a lexicon and ask what it is. Natural. So as I said, now thought-provoking. They stimulate thought and response. That is very important. It should make the child think. It should bring out the higher order thinking skills in a child. Next, limited in scope. Only 1 or 2 points in chain or reasoning called for. So you cannot have all the answers which are correct. It should have a few answers which are correct and rest are wrong. Adapted to the level of the class. So it should be tailored to the kinds of students in the class. So you need to understand what is the level of your class and frame the questions accordingly. You cannot, frame it for a very high level, at the same time frame it for a very low level. And I think all of you are aware of that with that, this portals coming up to check your assessment in grade 3, grade 5, and grade 8, SAFL, structured assessment for learning. So this SAFL will be a very important tool to understand where my student stands, whether he is at the national average or below that national average level when we talk about a particular class level. Whether the child is in class 3 level, class 2 level, class 1 level, or let's say in class 8 when we are conducting, we will check the level of the child, whether he is at par with his class 8 or 1 or 2 levels below it. And we can make the changes, support the child when the situation is still there under our control. So adapting to the level of the class is very important. Now, this particular slides just talks about that test the different aspects, like apart from being recall questions or comprehension questions, go to higher order thinking skills. Now, this is the picture which we can correlate many times. I taught Stripe how to whistle. I didn't hear him whistling. And the teacher says, I said I taught him. I didn't say he learned it. So it's, what's the use of teaching something that if the child is not learning it? So whenever we take an assessment and we teach the child, we have to understand that whether the child learned or not, it can be only, detected by the way he reproduces his knowledge. He produces the knowledge in front of you. He presents his knowledge, whether in written form, whether in form of a project, whether in form of a portfolio, whether in form of an MCQ, it does not matter. Whatever way he is comfortable with, showing that he knows it, competency-based education is talking about that. So again, competency-based assessment is a separate module altogether. But remember, in competency-based assessment, it is said that if a child, to test a child that whether he knows cycling or not, you cannot ask a child to write an essay on cycling. You have to give the option to the child that if he wants to show that he knows cycling, he can bring a bicycle in the school and ride it and show it to you that he can ride it. Or he can make a video when he's riding a bicycle and produce that in front of the teacher. So all these assessment methods are called competency-based assessment methods. But again, it's a very elaborate topic. And if time allows, at times we can have a session on that, on competency-based learning as well, how exactly it is to be approached. Now, apart from learning objectives, in competency-based assessment, which is being now developed by CBSE and the British Council and Alpha Plus, 3 companies are working together to develop the competency-based learning questionnaires. And in that, there is, apart from the learning objectives, something called assessment objectives, which the teachers need to be aware of. So this assessment objectives, when you are aware of, you get a grip on the competency-based learning. Now, I can tell you that, MCQ, competency-based learning, and higher order thinking skills, these do not exist in isolation. We have to correlate all these things. Bloom's taxonomy, the HOTS, the MCQs, the assessment as learning, assessment for learning, competency-based assessment, experiential learning, all these are to be, very skillfully woven into each other so that the child really gets a very good finished product, and that product will help the child to, shine in the 21st century. So what is items writing? Now, items, the task and or questions that are used to construct tests and examinations are referred to as items. So the questions are referred to as items, and the range of techniques involved in preparing those items are collectively referred to as item writing. So when you're preparing a question paper, the questions that you frame are called items, and the ways you can frame the question is called item writing. Now, there are steps for item writing. What is step 1? Step 1 is focus on the content topic to be assessed. So you need to understand that, or have a clear picture in front of your eyes that which is the topic that you are assessing. And the step 2 comes, decide on what knowledge or proficiency or cognitive process do you want your student to demonstrate. So are you checking the knowledge? Are you going to check the understanding, application, analysis, evaluation, or creation? So all these things need to be very clear in your mind before you set the question. You can ask yourself the following questions. What should the student know? And what should the student be able to do? So these 2 questions, when you keep at the back of your mind before you frame your MCQs or any question paper, that will be a great help for you. Now, steps in test construction. So how to construct an MCQ? First is identify the objective. So as I said, that what is to be tested and what the student should know. Then develop a TOS. I'll show you what exactly a TOS, but you can, for timing, just understand, develop a TOS and write items. So write items, then write the answers. In fact, the questions, you frame it. Now, what is a TOS? TOS is a table of specifications. An example test blueprint or table of specification is given under. So as you see, I have given you a blueprint of the table of specification. So you pick up a chapter and you decide that knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and total. And you can also keep an adjustment factor. So in topic A, how many questions of knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis you will give? So you feel like a topic A, you don't want to give a synthesis and evaluation question. On the other hand, topic D, you find a synthesis question has been given over here. Or in topic C, an evaluation question has been added. So depending on the topic, you can decide on, how many questions you're going to put over there. So this chart is going to be of great help. Now, when you make this chart, what you basically do is you check the total also. For example, knowledge, 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1, that is 5. 5 means 20%. So 20% of the total, you're making it. So again, for let's say synthesis, it's 1 and 1, 2. So 2 stands for, let's say, 8% of your total. And you add up all the things, it comes to 25, and 25 questions are 100%. So you can see the knowledge questions, what percentage they have, comprehension, how many they have. At the same time, what is the weightage that you have given to each topic? Topic A comprises of 24% questions, topic B, 24%, topic C, 24%, topic D, 28%. Now this gives you a very clear, blueprint in front of your eyes, and you are able to understand whether you paid attention to each topic or not. In case, let's assume like A, B, C, D, all topics I wanted to give similar weightage. But in case I feel like topic C, I want to increase the weightage, I can do that by looking at this particular chart and increase the number of questions over here. So I think this table of specification, if you keep in front of your eyes before you sit for preparing a question paper, it will be of great help. Whether you prepare a subjective question paper or an MCQ, this is going to be a great help for you. Now, what are the features of MCQ? MCQ asks a question or establishes the situation for a response, allows valid, reliable, and economical measurement of wide range of content in a relatively short testing time. Now, the testing time is short. Not only that, the correction time is also short. It can be machine corrected, right? Provides 4 response choices or options from which the correct answer is selected. Normally, MCQs are having 4 options, but there are MCQs which can have more options as well. But the benchmark is 4 options. Next. Now, before I come to this, I would like to pause for a moment and check if things are going clear, if my pace is okay. If you think I'm going, in proper speed, you can write okay. Or if you want me to slow down a little bit, write S. If you want to speed down a little bit, write F. Whatever you think. Slow S, speed up F. And if it's fine, just write okay in the chat box.
I think they are all okay, sir.
All right. I just want the fingers moving as well.
Yes, true.
It's a post lunch session, so
agreed.
Right. Anyway, let's move ahead. And what I was trying to show you is a video. So give me a moment. I'll share a video with you. And this is regarding the MCQ. I'll rather share my screen here. And sorry. Yeah, now a lot of OKs are coming in. Good, very good. So let's start.
Consider presenting a chart, a reading excerpt, or a short case, and writing a series of questions in which test takers have to interpret How to Make a Killer Multiple Choice Test Question by Academy of Learning Career College. This video will show you how to make one of the most common test question types, the multiple choice question. First, let's break down the parts of a multiple choice question. Check out this example. This is called the stem. It's the initial statement or question that requires a response. These are called alternatives. They are the different response options to the stem. One of the alternatives is the correct answer. It's the right response to the stem. While the rest are called distractors. They are incorrect responses to the stem and serve to throw off the unprepared test taker. Great, you may be wondering, but how do I make a killer multiple choice question? Here are 10 tips to use as guidelines. Number 1. Be sure to present a clear question or problem in the stem of your test item. You want to make certain that a test taker who knows the subject matter will be able to answer correctly. Number 2. Don't introduce new language. For example, if the course refers to horses as horses, but then the test question refers to stallions and fillies, which are types of horses, the test taker will be unfairly confused. Number 3. Whenever possible, avoid writing negative stated stems. For example, which of the following does not mean a male horse can be rephrased as which of the following means a female horse, and will generally result in test responses that better reflect what has been learned. Number 4. If you have many multiple choice questions in your test, vary the position of the correct answer. The easiest way to do this is to shuffle around the alternatives for each question after you've created the entire test. Number 5. Keep the alternatives a consistent length and format within the same test item. Generally, we have a tendency to make the correct answer longer, more detailed, and more complex than the other alternatives. Test takers pick up on this and tend to select those longer alternatives as a result. Number 6. All the alternatives in a test item should be plausible and mutually exclusive. Carefully chosen, credible-seeming alternatives will help you confirm that your learners have grasped the finer points of what you've taught. Number 7. Limit your use of the alternatives, none of the above, and all of the above. These are lazy alternatives and generally frustrate test takers needlessly. Number 8. Consider presenting a chart, a reading excerpt, or a short case, and writing a series of questions in which test takers have to interpret what you've presented in order to select the correct answers. These questions are more difficult to create and, unsurprisingly, can be the best kinds of multiple choice questions for assessing learners. Number 9. Proofread. When you are done creating your entire test, run through it, or better yet, have a trusted colleague take your test. It is easy to make small errors when we create a test, and it is also easy for those errors to totally undermine test questions. So, try to catch them before you accidentally frustrate your test takers. And lastly, number 10. Throughout your test creation process, remember that your goal is to find out how well your learners have achieved the objectives of the course. Your goal is not necessarily to write challenging questions or a hard test. A well-written test question is difficult for an unprepared test taker, and simple for a well-prepared test taker. And that's how you write a killer multiple-choice test question.
All right, I think now, just give me a moment, let me close this. All right, so let's come back to the session again and the presentation. So as you have seen in the video, that what is a stem, what are the options or the key, and the distractors. So these are the components. The stem is the question. The other alternatives are the distractors, and one right answer is the key. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of MCQ? First is the advantages. It has wide sampling of content. The problem is well structured, flexible, difficulty level can be done. Reliable, efficient, and objective scoring. Provide score easily understood and transformed as needed. Disadvantage, on the other hand, is it takes time to construct a good MCQ. Difficult to construct plausible alternative response. Now, when you're framing MCQ, it takes time to, find out what are the different alternatives that you can put as distractors. Do not provide any diagnostic information because it's an MCQ, and many times the children can, tick it and get the right answer by fluke as well, and measures a narrow facet of performance. So despite the advantages and disadvantages, we still go for MCQ in all competitive exams because the advantages far, outweigh the disadvantages, mainly because when the children are appearing in an examination in huge numbers and you need to really test the skill of a child, MCQ gives the best option because you can ask more number of questions. So guidelines for developing MCQ. Very quickly, I'll share the guidelines, which has already been shared in the video, so I'll not repeat whatever it has been said. Understand, be clearly worded and written in direct question form or as incomplete statement. So make it simple. That's the first rule. Contain only one concept. You cannot have multiple concepts in the same MCQ question. So stick to one concept for one question. Include as much of the item as possible and should be free of irrelevant material. So the item that you are testing, the topic that you are testing, only relate to that. Do not include irrelevant elements in the STEM. And as it clearly said in the video also, use negatively stated STEM only when significant learning outcomes require it. So use only when it is very much required, otherwise avoid it. Stress the negative word used in the STEM. So in case, which of the following is not a capital? Let's say if you're telling that, in that case, not has to be written in, block letters so that children or students do not miss out that not. Otherwise, you are just confusing the child with the question. Let's not confuse the child with the question. Let us try to find out what the child knows. So if you're using a negative word, highlight that word or make it in bold. So general rules, keep and STEM distractors short. No ambiguity in present interpretation. So you should not have a STEM which is, susceptible to interpret it differently. It should be very crystal clear what you are telling. It cannot be a statement where individuals can interpret in their own way and reach the conclusion. Can they answer the question without looking at the image? So in case you have an image, the question should be such that child can answer the question even without looking at the image. For example, if you're asking a question on the pollen tube and you've given an image of the pollen tube, the child should be able to answer the question without even looking at the image of the pollen tube that you have given as a reckoner. So one thing, remember, as I show in this picture, cut the STEM short. Do not make a very long statement in the STEM. Regarding the distractors, what you need to do, that was about the STEM, right? The question. Using the distractor, use plausible distractors as alternatives. So make things that is, it's possible as well. Do not give utopian answers that the children very easily find out that these are the wrong answers. So give the answers which are very close to the right answer as well, so that the child has some challenge. Make sure that there is a correct answer among the distractors. Now, this mistake many people do at times, that sometimes they give all answers which are correct, or sometimes they frame the question and find out, hey, I forgot to give the right answer in it. All answers were wrong. So do not make those mistakes. Make all the options grammatically consistent and parallel in form. So the statement should be grammatically correct. Otherwise, the students will be misled and he will get confused unnecessarily. The correct answer should appear at each position in almost equal numbers. So you cannot have, A, B, 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 B. So it should be a mix, A, B, C, A, B, C, D, A, B. Like this, it should be the answers should be varied. Vary the length of key to avoid giving clues. So length of the key should be varied as well. Otherwise, it gives a clear hint to the child. Place the position of the correct answer in random order, which I said that, not all A, repetition should be avoided. B, 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 C, C, C answers to be avoided. Do not focus on rote memory. use novel material in formulating problems to measure the ability to apply knowledge. Now, what is a rote loop? You know, exam, the child gives the exam, then forgets, again prepares, learns, gives the exam, forgets, prepares, learns, exam. So this is a vicious cycle that moves on and on. So we need to understand that we need to, liberate the child from this vicious loop. Take out the child from this vicious loop and ensure that by our assessment, some sensible testing is happening and the learning is happening because of the assessment. Now, what are the different types of MCQs? This is again a very important thing that you need to understand. There are possible types of MCQs. I'm using these same examples that CBSE gave you in the webinar, so that because that was a very short time the session was taken, MCQs were done in a very hurry. So what are the possible types of MCQ? Simple MCQ, complex MCQ, and assertion reasoning MCQ. I'll give an example of each. The simple multiple choice items with one item, stem, and 4 options. For example, which of the following would cause acid rain to be acidic? Now, just for fun, you can try giving the right answer as well. If you think you want to answer, you can put the right answer in the chat box. But it's more about not the answer, about what is the type of question that we are asking. Right? So, which of the following would cause the acid rain? Is it the smoke, the dust particles, the lead compounds, or sulfur dioxide? Yes, D answer is coming up. That's right. It's D. Next, example 2 of MCQ is a pendulum consists of a sphere hanging from a string. What will happen to the period of pendulum if the mass of the sphere is doubled? Assume that the effects of air friction and the mass of the string are negligible and that the sphere traces an arc of 20 degrees in a plane as it swings. Now, those who are not science teachers, do not get confused with the question. I have nothing to do with the question right now. We are not testing your science knowledge. What I'm trying to hint here is this type of question. See, what is the difference between type 1 and type 2? If you see, the type 1 question was more of a knowledge question. If the child knows sulfur dioxide, he will be able to answer. But here, if you see, what will happen if the pendulum mass is doubled? Unless and until the child has an understanding and application sense, he will not be able to do it. So we are talking about testing the higher order thinking skill. And as you have rightly pointed out, I think the science teachers are quickly pitching in. The answer is C. It will remain unchanged because as the gravity is acting on that, gravity will not make any difference based on the weight of the object, mass of the object rather. Next. Third example is, which of the following best describes the main function of alveoli in the lungs? Now you see, here all the questions are similar. It all describes the lungs thing. Every answer is right, but which one is the right answer? To provide a large surface area for gaseous exchange, to provide an adequate supply of mucus, to ensure that lungs do not collapse, to make the lungs elastic. Now, if you see, none of the answers you can tell is a wrong answer. All of them are right. But what is it asking? Best describes. So which one is the best suited answer? And as again, the biology teachers are pitching in with the answer is A, to increase the surface area for gaseous exchange. Now let's go to something different. The pie chart shows the composition of 100 grams of 4 different foods. Which food provides the most energy? Now see, white is carbohydrate, black is fats and oils, gray is protein, stripe is water. Now we know the energy giving food is carbohydrate. So which one is the right answer? Of course, A, right? A gives most energy, or in fact, B rather. The answer is B, because the portion of carbohydrate is highest in B and others are less in B. So answer is B. Very good. Most suitable answer. This is again a very important thing. Look at this. Which word describes desert the best? Type the word in the chat box. Which one you think describes desert the best? Now, instead of A, B, C, D, let me check what you give the answer. Cactus, oasis, arid, or flat? See, yes, I got a right answer. The first one who gave it, the chat box is really moving fast, but I think it was given by Sabita Naik? No. Before that, Vinita? Yeah, a lot of people. I probably couldn't read the right one who gave the first answer, but the answer is arid. Everything has got desert, but it will not be a desert unless it is dry and arid. So cactus is there in desert, oasis is there, desert is flat. All these are facts. But arid, unless and until the area is dry, it will not be a desert, right? So this is the way to check the most suitable answer. Now let's come to multiple choice questions which are complex in nature. Complex means there are more than one answers. So complex MCQ items with one or more of the given formats. Example, which of the following is a characteristic of a virus? Number one is it can cause diseases. It can reproduce by itself. It is composed of large living cells. It lives in plant and animal cells. Now, when you see the answer 1 and 4, both are right. It can cause disease and it lives in plant and animal disease. The other two are not correct. So in a complex MCQ, the child needs to pick up more than one answer as correct answers. So 1 and 2, 3 and 4, like that. Now, another example of complex MCQ. Now, this is related to the NEP. Let me see. Consider the following statements regarding language in NEP. It will promote Ek Bharat Shreshth Bharat initiative, 3-language formula with greater flexibility. All classical languages will be available in school as options. Which one is the correct answer? 1, 2, 1 and 2, or 1, 2 and 3? Now, in this case, as you see, I've put it in bold. So the answer is obvious. 1, 2 and 3, all are right answers in terms of NEP for language. So this is again a complex MCQ where the child will not be allowed to choose only one answer. It can be a multiple correct answer as well. Now, these are, when you give it in a Google form, there are two types of buttons. One button is called a radio button. The radio button is one where you can select only one option. And the other is a checkbox where you can select multiple options. So when you frame a complex MCQ, make sure that you do not use a radio button. Always use a, this alternative checkbox where it can select more number of options. Now come to another option which is called sequencing. Which of the following route is taken by a pollen tube after pollination of the flower? Is it like ovule style stigma, style ovule stigma, stigma style ovule, stigma filament ovule? Which one is the right answer, teachers? Let me see which one you say is the right answer. The sequence. Now you see the images here. Now I told you earlier, without looking at the image also, the child should be able to answer. So which one is the right answer? Stigma, style, ovule, right? So C is the right answer. Very good. So this is called complex MCQ where you ask for a sequence. Now the very important part where teachers do not know much about it, which is assertion and reasoning type. Now, given below are two statements labeled as assertion and reason. Assertion means you are telling something, a statement, and reason is you are supporting that statement. So assertion and reasoning is a statement being told and a statement to support or a logic to support. So either the statement or the reason or both of them can be wrong or incorrect. Let's see how it is. Assertion is appendix is a vestigial organ in the human body. The reason is it does not participate in digestion. Now select the most appropriate answer from the options given below. Both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of R. So it's telling that appendix is a vestigial organ is true and it does not participate in digestion is also true. But is it called a vestigial organ because it does not participate in digestion? That is the question, right? So it's telling both A and R are true. R is the correct explanation of A. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. 3 is A is true, but R is false. Or 4 is A is false, but R is true. So which one you think is the right answer? Sorry. Which one? Both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation? Or both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation? Why is it called a vestigial organ? Okay. Yeah. So many of you are telling it's a 2, that R is not the correct explanation. It's not only about digestion, but it does not have any function in the body at all. So let's go to the next question. Now, these are case study based question. Now, read the statement carefully. It's a case. Now, this is just an example. The cases can be much more bigger than this. It can be a paragraph. To save time, I have used the shorter version. Erin is 12-year-old. For 3 years, she has been asking her parents for a dog. Her parents have told her that they believe a dog would not be happy in an apartment, but they have given her permission to have a bird. Erin has not yet decided what kind of birds she would like to have. Which one is the right answer? Erin's parents like birds better than they like dogs. Erin does not like birds. Erin and her parents live in an apartment, or Erin and her parents would like to move. Wonderful. The teachers are really spot on. C is the right answer. Now, by reading this case, we can understand only one fact is true, that Erin and her parents live in an apartment. Correct. So this is a case-based question. It can be a question related to a law or rule. For example, posthumous publication occurs when a book is published after the author's death. That is a rule, that when a book is published after the author's death, it's called posthumous publication. Which situation below is the best example of a posthumous publication? Number 1, Richard's illness took his life before he was able to enjoy the amazing early reviews of his novel. Melissa's publisher cancels her book contract after she fails to deliver the manuscript on time. Clarence never thought he'd live to see the 3rd book in his trilogy published. Elizabeth is honored with a prestigious literary award for her writing career, and her daughter accepts the award on behalf of her deceased mother. Which one is the right option? Very good. The answer is D. D. Because the deceased mother and the daughter receives the award. Richard's illness took his life before he was able to enjoy the amazing early reviews. So the reviews may have come after the book has been published. So publication might have happened in his lifetime, but here Elizabeth is honored with the prestigious literary award. No, let me just share this. It's actually A is more correct, because award can be given later on. The book was published, the award comes later on, and deceased mother was there. So the child goes and receives the award. Does not necessarily mean that the book was published, after the death. The book might have been published during the lifetime. So Richard's illness took his life before he was able to enjoy the amazing early reviews of his novel. So this is the closest of a posthumous case. So the answer is A. So half my students, just to make things a little bit light, half my students have post-assessment stress disorder. So that should not be the case, Your disorder should not happen to the children after taking your test. Now, I'll very quickly tell 10 rules of MCQ, and then we will come to the hacks. 10 rules of framing MCQ, quick ones. Number 1, first, avoid grammatical cues. For example, word that modifies an adjective is called an. Now you have written over here an. An means it will be either adjective or adverb, because an cannot be used for a consonant, right? So if it's a vowel, then only it will be an. So I'm giving a cue over here that an means either adverb or adjective. So you can write it in this way. A word that modifies an adjective is called a or an. Now you can have any 4 of the options can be correct. So do not give grammatical cues. Number 2, keep the alternatives homogeneous. Now you see homogeneous means what? You see the Ontario is famous for Niagara Falls, the state with a beaver on its flag, the largest producer of apples in Canada, the location of the tallest mountain in Canada. So these are all, different types of answers. But when you're talking about something that is a false, you put other false name, it should be homogeneous. So Ontario is famous for Niagara Falls, Victoria Falls, Angel Falls, or Iguazu Falls. So whatever is the right answer, the child will select without getting confused. So this is called a homogeneous. All the things are names are false. And here, the child can tell any one of those things and it can be a right answer. Next, rule number 3. The stem should be in a question format, not incomplete statement. So preferably try to give it a question format, not incomplete. Like what? The capital of Indonesia is, rather than that, you can write, which of the following is the capital of Indonesia? And then you give the options. So it is said that when you put it in this way, it gets more clearer to the examinee. Number 4 rule. Number 4 rule is, do not start with a blank space in the beginning. Dash is a synonym for courtesy. You can say the synonym for courtesy is dash. So the blank space in the beginning is preferably to be avoided. Rule number 5. Options that overlap or confuse learners and can easily be identified as distractors. Also, if the overlap includes the intended answer, then there will be more than one option that can be confused as the right answer. For example, let's see this one. How long does an annual plant generally live? It dies after the first year. It lives for many years. It lives for more than 1 year. Now see, these are related. It lives for more than 1 year and it lives for many years is not exclusive of each other. So these are inclusive answers. But look at the correct option. Only 1 year, only 2 years, only 3 years, several years. So when you say this makes a clear-cut, statement with proper answers. So you cannot have answers where both the answers are mixed. So it has to be red and blue, distinctly separated. So mutually exclusive and exhaustive events. Number 6 rule. Who among the following directed the Titanic? Now, there's a spelling error over here. Vincent van Gogh. You know that Vincent van Gogh never directed movies, right? Or Neil Gaiman is an author. James Cameron is a movie director, and Steve Jobs is a businessman or an innovator. But here, when you go to the correct option, here you say Steven Spielberg, who is a movie director, Christopher Nolan, again a movie director, the director of Dark Knight, James Cameron, the director of Titanic, and Martin Scorsese, who is Aviators. He made that movie. So now the children can get confused that which one is the right answer, because all of them are movie directors. So all alternatives should be plausible. You should not have mutually exclusive answers. Give me a moment. All right. So now let's go to the next part. Alternatives should be presented in a logical order. Now, logical order means 1951 to 55, and then you have brought in 1914 to 17. It should be like sequentially, 1914 to 17, 29 to 34, 39 to 45, 51 to 55. So sequentially arrange the answers, not randomly. Rule number 7. It should be a balanced way. For example, 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D. So you have a sequence A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B. It should not be like that. You can have B, D, A, C, B, D, B, B, A, C. So this balanced sequence should be there. It should not be predictable that A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, this is the sequence. So this is called balance. That's rule number 8. Rule number 9. What is rule number 9? Avoid the use of specific determiners. To avoid infection after receiving a punctured wound to the hand, you should. So what is it being told over here? To avoid the infection after receiving a punctured wound to the hand, you should always. So when words such as never, always, and only are included in the distractor to make them false, they serve as clues to alert learners. So avoid using, this never, always, because it at times makes the things complicated. So when you use these words like always, never, only, use it in the stem and not in the distractor. So distractor should not have these terms, never, always, only. It should be there only in the stem. See here, the words like this, always, only, all these are in the distractor. But here, the distractor does not have any such determiner. It is on the stem. Next, the 10th and the last one is, which of the following is the best one? For example, Which of the following is the best indication of high morale in a supervisor unit? So it's talking about an option in multiple choice question that is noticeably longer or shorter than the others had a greater chance of being assumed to be the correct answer. Hence, to avoid such questions without good reason, always keep your options similar in length. Now you see, option B is much longer than the others. So it is said that you keep the length of the questions or distractors rather, and the key similar. So these are the 10 very important rules. Now in the next 5 minutes, I will conclude my session. What are the hacks for children? Now I'm talking from a student's perspective. I'm not talking from a teacher's perspective anymore. So students, what they can do, how you can prepare your children. The first one, never follow a sequence. Never follow a sequence means what? Some children try to attempt the question paper like I'll start from question number 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll go to question number 100. So when they do in that order, that is one sequence. Some people, they use a different sequence. What is that sequence? They start from 100 and come towards 1. So these both cases are to be avoided. So never follow a sequence is a big thing that you can tell to your children, is a very big no. Do not approach the MCQ paper like that. Then you will end up losing time. Why? Because purposefully what happens, there are two psychological things. The first 10 and the last 10 questions are designed in such a way that at times when the examinee is attending the question, he does not answer the first question. He goes to the second. It doesn't seem, he doesn't know it. Third, then his, morale goes down, and the known questions also he will miss out. So what is being told over here is, before you even attempt the, solving the paper, read the entire question paper and tick the ones which you think you know, and without even thinking you can, answer it. So these are the ones that sure shot, 100%. So, and then there will be questions that you see that if you try it, you have to work on that, but you can get to the answer. It requires a little bit of workaround. That's B. And C is that surely you do not know the answers. So in attempt A, in stage A, it is said that let's assume the paper is of 90 minutes, which has been told by CBSE, that it will be a 90-minute paper of MCQ. So advise the children that first 30 minutes, they should solve the ones that they know. First time, they will read the question paper very quickly. After reading, they will tick the ones they already know and solve those answers in the first 30 minutes. So now secured that everything that I knew in the answer paper, it can be 10 I know, I answer 10, then I know 15, I answer 15, then 16, now 19, now I go to 25, then I go to 28, and so on. So that's the first 30 minutes. In the next 45 minutes, you try solving those questions where you need to do a little bit of workaround and thinking. That's the 45 minutes. And after that 45 minutes is over, for the next 15 minutes, you attempt those questions which you do not know, unless and until there is a negative marking. So how to attempt the questions which you do not know? You cannot work out with that. You cannot find the right answer by thinking also, and you do not know the answer. Now, the first option to attempt these type of answers are eliminate option. Remove the offset value. I'll give an example. Annotation option is not there, so I cannot scribble over here. Anyway, I'll give an option. So let's say offset values are, you have a number that you want to ask, 8, 10, 12, 200. Now you see that 8, 10, 12, these are almost similar number, and 200 is an offset value. So first thing is eliminate the offset value. Then if there is something like none of the above, remove that value as well. None of the above, very rarely, it has been seen by research in all different examinations, none of the above is a very, very rare chance. 95% of the time, none of the above answers are not right. So you can advise the children, if there is a none of the above, they can safely, discard that. Now, once you have discarded, what are the most probable options? Now understand, this is a very clear thumb rule, and it has been proven by research. If it's an MCQ where there are 4 options, the most probable option is going to be B or C. And in that too, B is going to be the most preferred option. This is psychology, nothing more than that. So psychology says 95% of times you will have B as the right answer when it's a 4 alternative MCQ. If it's a 5 or 6 alternative MCQ, the last option, that's the 5th or the 6th one, is most likely to be correct. So this is again a hack. It's not that it has to be a thumb rule, always right, but it is how you can, tell your children how to go about when they do not know the answer. The last 15 minutes I'm talking about. Remember the direct values of pi. What is the direct value of square root of 3, square root of 9? All these things, if the children remember, it will help the children. Now, how to make it happen? Advise the children, for mathematics in particular, use the direct values of different things like pi, root, square, all these things as a wallpaper of the mobile, wallpaper of WhatsApp, and they will be checking it often. For 1 month they do it, they remember the values, and it will be really helpful when they have less time to solve. The direct values, for example, 2048 divided by pi into 306. So moment you know pi is 22 by 7, that's almost 3, you can immediately calculate it. So this is something that needs to be done. And the 6th one is study smart. Practice as much as you can. Now it has again been proven by research that if you have not seen a question, you are seeing it first time in the examination hall, you are more likely to commit a mistake. Even if you say that my concept is very clear, I know it very nicely, I can solve any question, even then, a new question that comes in the examination hall, it has been seen that those who have never practiced that question, they are more likely to get it wrong. So what you need to do is practice more and more. Now let's inform this to you that as a method, as an initiative of all the Sahodayas of Maharashtra, Pune, Mumbai, Nagpur, Kolhapur, Solapur, Buldana, Jalgaon, we are planning for a session of assessment system day after tomorrow. But the most important thing is we are preparing a website where MCQs will be given, dump of MCQs, thousands of MCQs. The child can go into this portal and download the MCQs and practice it. So we are asking all the Sahodayas to prepare questions on MCQ of different subjects, and then we will upload it in one common website. The link will be shared with each one of you, so you can give the students the chance to practice it. Very soon we are expecting it to be ready. So probably in 1 month's time, we will get it done, right? So much before the board exam, that is in the month of November to December, you will have a whole lot of questions for your children to practice. And study smart again, as I said, reduce the long, elaborate notes into snapshot notes. Make mind maps, visual charts, all these flow charts, all these things are very, very important for study, smart study to solve MCQs. MCQ, you need not, mug up that entire long answer. Mind maps, flowchart diagrams, all these are going to be real differentiators. So this is, a clear hack for the students. I don't want to go deep into it. In fact, I have a session. It's exclusively for students for 1 hour, how to attempt the MCQs. There we discuss in detail about all these options by giving examples. But I just wanted to share with you so that you know at least the ground rules, that how the children can attempt the questions which they do not know the answer. So with that, we come to the end of the session. I hope there are some things that you can take home, even if not the entire thing. And of course, the recording video will be there for your reference. So use it whenever needed. And over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us. We have our Managing Director, Mrs. Harshada Jadhav. Ma'am. Harshada, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Swaroop sir, for such an informative session. It was a really wonderful session. I think pandemic is just not given an option for online learning and just for the students. It has also been a good learning session for all the schools together. It gives such a wonderful platform for all of us to come together and learn together and share knowledge with each other. Like, we always say, by sharing knowledge, that's how we grow with each other. This has also given a platform to Trinity to have all these wonderful educators come together and share knowledge. Obviously, after my session, you will also have an MC question answer session with Swaroop sir, where you can ask him questions and he will address. So I think MCQs is a very important topic per se, because life is all about multiple choice questions, right? And all your competitive exams are about multiple choice questions. And we talk about multiple choice questions only after grade 8, 9, 10th is when we focus on them, where we start preparing our students for all the competitive exams altogether. But I would just like to reiterate what you said. We should not teach our children just to be job seekers, but to be job makers. And when you talk about making our children job makers, it is just not the learning or the knowledge, but it is the overall aptitude development as well. And I think MCQs and such sort of wonderful assessments gives us an plethora of opportunities to assess our students, so that we align our assessment goals with our learning goals. The whole idea is to generate a comprehensive profile of the students, and just not to understand whether the child has understood or not. Usually when our traditional learning, we've always talked so much about rote learning. Rote learning, just like you said, the loop, whether the children learn and then they forget, and then they learn and they forget. MCQs, I think, is it's a wonderful way, and so many different types of more assessments that are there out there. Like case studies are there, where you can give children case studies to analyze on the studies that they have given. I think these all opportunities give us to understand the overall comprehensive profile of the child. When the Britishers started this system of education in our country and introduced this new language to us, that is English, other than all other classical languages, the whole idea was to generate a lot of clerks for the East India Company. Right. And it's been quite some time that we are trying to break this and create a new education system. And I think Corona has given us all an opportunity to revamp the entire education system. And we are able to do it pretty much over a short span of these 12 to 24 months. It has put across about 1.2 billion children out of classrooms. But research has also shown that online learning has increased almost 50 to 60% of the absorption of knowledge and learning that is happening. So more learning and more retention of knowledge than it was there during the traditional time of learning. I think specifically because online learning is fast-paced, and children who don't understand maybe can go back to see what is there. Like today's session, I'm sure a lot of teachers who would like to be here, and a lot of teachers who are here would have wanted their peers to be there. So, and whoever is absent can just go back to the recording that is available on the Trinity school page of the Tassa's recording, and then they can just look at the recordings. I think such type of availability on this online sessions during the Corona time has given the children with a lot of retention power. And I think with sessions like and questions like assessment like MCQs, it is just not the understanding and the knowledge, but also the critical thinking that needs to be analyzed for the children. Because, a lot of things when we talk about, especially the practical knowledge that we need to give to our children, is something that we talk only, when the children graduate, unfortunately. There are so many things like our children wouldn't know what Aadhaar is. Our children wouldn't, maybe they learn what GDP is in economics in their grade 9th and 10th, but they don't understand the basic market supply demand understanding, when it comes to real life scenarios. And I think having this different types of assessments gives us an opportunity to make them understand and learn. I think this session is more importantly, it has been exhaustive and a very nice, very comprehensive overall session. So I would like to thank Datta sir on behalf of all the teachers who are present here, on behalf of Trinity, to having such a wonderful session. And I think it will not be useful for the schools only during the online learning, but also during the offline learning, when we are sure that when we go back to offline learning, we are not going to let go our online learning anyway, so online learning is still going to happen. And all these, I think it's a great initiative for all the Sahodiyas to come together and form this platform on the website where all the MCQs can be pooled together. I think this is a wonderful platform of knowledge sharing that all the Sahodiyas are doing together, all the schools included in the Sahodiyas are doing together. And when we go back to traditional learning, MCQs and such type of assessments can always be an online platform for children, who go back home after school, and then, they can do a little fun activity after school. And we can do a lot of analysis on that also. So thank you, sir, so much. And for all the, I specifically, sir, I would like to mention, I really liked the questions that you framed, some on data interpretation also. There was this one question about carbohydrates and water and fat, and what, the 100 grams, the split in the pie chart. And that was very much an understanding of both, the understanding of the subject and the data interpretation in the pie chart as well. I mean, everything around us is data interpretation. We are all talking about data, big data and everything. So I think data interpretation is something that has to start on very early on in school. And I think that MCQ example was an excellent example of how other mathematics, how you use data interpretation techniques in other subjects as well, so that children learn data interpretation. I think that is also a very important topic that you, I think, intentionally, unintentionally covered today. So thank you for that as well, sir. We thank you on behalf of the entire KJEI and Trinity group of schools. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Harshada ma'am. Sir, should we take the question and answers session?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Rashida ma'am and Vijayalakshmi ma'am, I request you to take the session ahead.
Yes. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes, Rashida ma'am, yes.
Yes, sir. There is Neetu Tyagi ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, good afternoon, everyone. A wonderful session, sir. Thank you so much. You've enlightened us. And of course, it'll help us a lot in framing our MCQs from now onwards. And Ms. Neetu Tyagi wants to ask whether there will be something available for languages, English and Hindi.
We are, creating MCQs for all subjects. So whether it's Hindi, Marathi, even we are working on Sanskrit as well, so that, teachers get access to all the different subjects. So what we are doing at the Sahodaya level is we have distributed the work among the different schools of the Sahodaya. Subject matter experts are asked to create the MCQs, and then it will be given to another school for cross-checking. And finally, after everything is cross-checked, we will have subject-wise tabs in the website. And then the subject-wise tab will also contain the class 9, 10, 11, 12. And you go into one of those and you will be able to download a dump of MCQ questions with the answers. So we are working on how the presentation will be. And the second thing is we are also thinking of converting that website into a forum where, you just go in, if a child has a doubt, raises a question, any of the expert who is in the, looking at that website can post the answer over there as well. So it will not be only a question bank, it will be a forum where the educators and students can come together and talk to each other or, communicate with each other. All subjects will be there, including languages.
Right. So there's another question which talks about physical education. If there is something about physical education, MCQs on physical education.
No, we haven't thought about anything on physical education as of now. But after the first phase, when we are dealing mainly with the main subjects, the scholastic subjects in particular, once we are done with that and the website is operational, that time we will explore the possibility of other things. So maybe, this is August going on right now. So let's say by mid-September or third week of September, it should be over. And then in the next 1 month, by the month of October, if we have to do something different, we will do it and upload that. So we will still have a good amount of time left because the exams will probably be organized in the month of late November or early December.
Right, sir. So I think this answers the questions regarding the skill-based subjects as well as the music subject, right? There is another question where, could you please elaborate on case-based and competency-based questions by Ms. Shivani Ratna?
See, case study-based question is simply, if you take it in a simple way, it's a story that has been told to you. It's a case given. And any question based on that case is a case-based question. So there is a, let's say an article that is presented to you. There's an abstract taken from a book that is presented to you, which you do not, or you have not read earlier. So this is a case which is being presented. And based on the case, the questions are being asked on that particular story or the case. That's a case-based question. But when I talk about competency-based assessment, that's a different domain altogether. Competency-based assessment is checking the competency of the child. And competency of the child can be, let's say, at a basic level, at an advanced level, and so on. So competency assessment basically checks the student where the student stands. So as I said, apart from the learning objectives, in competency-based assessment system, there are assessment objectives. I'll give an example. For example, in language, if the child is able to understand only the literal meaning of the sentence, it is level 1. Now, if the child is able to understand the hidden meaning of the sentence or the intrinsic meaning, it's the level 2. Third is, if the child is able to critically analyze what the author has written in that statement, that, this is a correct statement or this could have been written in this. So critically analyzing that whether the statement that has been given is written properly or not properly. And the fourth step is when the reader is able to create something from that statement, that I feel the statement like this or the ending of the story could have been changed to this. So this is a fourth level of competency. So the child can be at the first level of competence where he can only understand the extrinsic meaning, or at the fourth level of competency where the child is able to create something from the statement that is being given to him. So that is competency-based assessment. And as I said, competency-based assessment is a different and at least 1 hour module. I conducted recently this for Kolhapur Sahodaya. So in that, it was a 2-hour session that I conducted for. And after that, teachers had a fair amount of idea what exactly it is. But I would strongly suggest if you want to get a hang on, the CBE, competency-based education, I would recommend a workshop of a full day where the teachers will hands-on frame the questions. Then, otherwise, listening to a webinar, it's not trying to, watching the trailer, it's not going to happen. But again, as I, in simple words, explained to you, a competency-based assessment will tell you where is the level. Right? Okay. Any other question?
Yes, sir. This question is from me actually, sir. I just wanted to know whether for grade 9 and for grade 11, will there be any content, MCQs available? Because of course we are focusing on grade 10 and 12, but we also need to make sure that our grade 9 and grade 11 children are also well prepared for the next year in case if the situation does continue.
See, what CBSE has told is they will give sample question banks on the website. But as you can understand that CBSE is mainly concerned with the 10th and 12th. So first they will do it for that. And if possible, they are trying, what I came to know from, informal discussion with a few CBSE officials in the academic section, that they are working on it and they will try to publish if time permits. But I'll tell you one more thing, that there are a lot of companies who are coming up with question banks of 9th, 11th, and so on, of different subjects. So I have a group of mine, WhatsApp group. I can see many of you are members of that group as well. Mimra ma'am is smiling. So I post these MCQs in that group. And, whenever I get access to anything, I definitely post it in that group so that teachers can use it and get benefited. So certainly something will come up and we will share it with you. Whatever is there, I can pass it on to Rupali ma'am. She can
Yes, sir.
Among the groups, whatever I have circulated so far. But in the coming days also, if you get connected to my group, I'll share the link with you, my group link. I'll give that to Rupali ma'am as well.
Yes, I will share the group link also, sir, with everybody so that they can join your group as well.
Right. Thank you so much.
I'll do that. So any other questions that we are awaiting? But I think your session was so clear, sir. I don't think all the doubts.
No, ma'am, it seems that everybody is pretty
clear.
We have one member who has raised hand for a long time. Should we take
Yes,
questions,
yes,
sir?
please. Yes, please.
Pranjal ma'am, please unmute and ask your question.
Yes, hello sir. It was a wonderful session. Actually, I just wanted to ask that for humanities subject like accountancy, would you please help us to how to form MCQs, or will there be any session for that as well?
I couldn't get you properly. Can you be a bit soft?
Yeah. I just wanted to ask for humanities subjects also like accountancy and business studies. Will you please guide us how to frame MCQs or something like that?
Yeah. We are working on that. Even the commerce subjects or humanities subject, people and teachers are being given the responsibility. As soon as they come up with the dump of questions, we will put that up. See, the idea is whatever is going to be tested, we will try to put everything in that portal. So, but as you can understand that it requires the teachers to work in the background. In fact, I would recommend each one of you be an instrument to it. You should not wait that some Sahoda is doing it. Sahoda is formed with each one of us, right? So I would recommend, you people take up the leadership, and my mail ID is there with you. My WhatsApp number is there with you. I have a YouTube channel also. There also I put my, phone number and other things. So what I would recommend, in case you have done something, and today I also shared with you how to create the MCQs, what are the things you need to know, create yourself. Even if you, contribute 10 MCQs, it will still be a good contribution. I'm not looking for 500 contributions from individuals. Give me 5, give me 10. I will put those up. Some child can be benefited. So the idea is even, 266 people are in the room. If even you prepare 10 MCQs each, it will be 2060 MCQs. So I would recommend, please go ahead and do it. Provide it to me, I will upload. And we will also get it checked. Verification also will be done before we do it, so that, something that we upload should not be incorrect.
So I think it was a wonderful session, sir, and we are towards the end of it. There was a lot of takeaway from the entire session and a lot of learning, and it has enlightened us and set us on the right path, basically, to face the new challenge. And yes, it has also cleared a lot of doubts that we had in mind and things. So now I would request Vijay Lakshmi ma'am to propose the vote of thanks. Shubha ma'am, would you like to say something? We have Shubha ma'am also here. Can we unmute Shubha ma'am? Mukta ma'am, Shubha ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, I'm trying. Yes.
Admin here.
Right, ma'am. I have asked her to unmute, ma'am. Okay, I'll just check again. Yes.
Ma'am, we are
not able to hear you. Please unmute. I think now you can.
Now you can? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening,
ma'am.
Sir, Shakuntala ma'am, and all the members of Trinity International School. It has been a wonderful session. And Swarup sir, as always, you're so clear and crisp in what you explain. It's really commendable, and we are really fortunate and blessed to have you train us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words.
Especially when you said that, each one of us can make at least 2 questions per subject and give it to you for ratification, and then you will upload. I think the whole community, teacher community, as well as the student community will definitely benefit from this. It's such a wonderful gesture. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Vijayalakshmi, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Good evening, one and all present here. It is a great privilege indeed to be a part of such a required and thought-provoking session. On behalf of the entire Trinity fraternity, I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Swaroop sir for educating us on the nuances of MCQs. I would also like to thank all the dignitaries and teachers present here. We are all in a phase of transition, and the insightful session will definitely help us to make the most out of it. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for listening to me. And I would love to visit your school, Rupali ma'am.
Yes, sir. Like decided, yes, we do have one physical session and you have to visit Trinity.
Yeah, your school has a lovely backdrop. The mountains, I love those. I want to visit.
Wonderful, wonderful. We are going to have one session, sir, with you. That is for sure, for sure.
We were just talking, Harshada and me, and we were saying that we must call him to our school.
Sir has already asked me that once things are better, Rupali ma'am, I want to come to your school. I said, yes, sir, definitely. We are going to have one session with you.
Yeah, just now we had a talk, Harshada and I, and we were saying we should call him exclusively for our teachers to the school, and he should see our school. You'll love it.
Absolutely, I already love it. I already love it from what I see on the internet.
Most welcome. We'll definitely arrange something very soon. Thank you so much. I was just going through all the chat box, and what I could see in all those was thank you so much. Thank you so much. So it's been appreciated by each and everyone who has attended today. So I'm sure all of them are going to be very grateful to you for taking up so much time and helping them out like this, because it's a new thing for a lot of people. Not that MCQs are new, but to look at it from that point of view as a very determining factor in the, future of the children's results, that makes it a little more, of a focus for everyone. So thank you so much for that. And I'm sure we can get lots more in your group. I'm sure everyone will be very happy to be part of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
Rupali ma'am, a request to you to share certificates to all the participants, please.
Yes. We put the link, and once they fill the link, they get their certificates automatically. They receive it in their mailbox. So participants, Mukta ma'am, if you can put the link up again for the ones who left with it, so that they can get the certificates.
Right. I've also informed that the certificates will be, will get the certificate in the mail.
In the mail, yes.
Yes. Rupali ma'am and Director ma'am, should we conclude the session?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Swaroop sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.